It's February 21st, 1999. Somewhere in a clunky pre-Y2K web browser, you're firing up NBA.com to catch the Toronto Raptors highlights. Dial-up buzzes in the background providing the soundtrack to a fresh-faced Vince Carter cooking the Vancouver Grizzlies in the Raptors' first ever game at the shiny new Air Canada Centre in downtown Toronto. This is already the third home arena they've played in this season. Their usual home, the Skydome, a baseball stadium, wasn't even available for their home opener the previous week because Ozzy Osbourne had booked the date for a gig, so they had to move to the city's other main attraction, Maple Leaf Gardens. Such was life for the Toronto Raptors. They were a basketball team trying to find its footing in a baseball stadium in a city obsessed with hockey, wearing cartoonish purple jerseys with jagged pinstripes and a giant dinosaur on the chest. A team that needed not just a home court, but a proper identity to announce themselves as more than just a plucky Canadian expansion franchise who upset the Bulls that one time. In a pre-game ceremony, the Raptors had hung the dinosaur logo up in the rafters, symbolizing the beginning of the end for the Dino jersey era. It was certainly different, but up until this point, it never really stood for anything. It was about to die before its time, like the actual dinosaurs, to be fair. If the Raptors could somehow catch lightning in a bottle, maybe they could bring some excitement to Canadian basketball, because the Grizzlies certainly weren't going to do it. And speaking of...
The West on him, Carter to the basket! Oh, wow! Oh!
It's not Vince Carter's most famous dunk, it's not even his most acrobatic, but in this moment, on opening day at the aptly named Air Canada Centre, something changed in Toronto. But to understand the magnitude of this moment, we need to go back and look at an NBA in transition, a hockey city with a great baseball team, and a dinosaur jersey, brought back from the very brink of extinction.
Here's Johnson. Johnson gets, no, he could not get it off. Knocked away by Grant. It's all over. The Chicago Bulls have made it 3 straight.
It's 1993, and a bespectacled Horace Grant just put the finishing block on the Chicago Bulls' first three-peat. Michael Jordan, who averaged 41 for the series and scored all of the Bulls' points in the fourth quarter before a Bill Paxson three to take the lead, is mobbed by his teammates. For the Chicago Bulls, life is good, but for the NBA, it's even better. The Bulls-Suns finals were broadcast in 109 countries, and league merchandise sales had surged from 10 million in 1981 to 2 billion worldwide by 1993. Fueled by the larger-than-life personas of its stars, the NBA had become a cultural phenomenon. The other end of the court, Charles Barkley, now 30 years old, was coming off an MVP season. He'd propelled the Suns to the finals, but they lost to Jordan's Bulls. And for Barkley, it brought thoughts of retirement, telling reporters he definitely would have retired if they'd won it. Then, a month before the 1993-94 season, the NBA was rocked by another seismic development. Michael Jordan announced his retirement. The league's undisputed superstar was gone, overnight. Then, 4 days later, during training camp, Barkley experienced a collapse that caused him to lose feeling in his legs, a scare attributed to long-standing back issues. And shortly after, he declared, "I'm 99.9% sure this is my last year." So, the NBA is at a crossroads. Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, all gone, and the NBA was looking for their replacement. Other legends like Karl Malone, Patrick Ewing, Clyde Drexler, and Hakeem Olajuwon remained competitive, but they were all on the wrong side of 30. Meanwhile, the league's younger talents, Shawn Kemp, Scottie Pippen, Reggie Miller, had yet to announce themselves in the national spotlight. And so, to maintain its momentum, the NBA needed fresh faces. Enter Shaquille O'Neal, the charismatic rookie who debuted with the Orlando Magic in 1992. With his larger-than-life personality and dominant talent, Shaq quickly became the league's marketing centerpiece. And with O'Neal on the rise, the NBA's leadership recognized the need to expand its footprint. The turn of the decade had seen the addition of the Hornets, the Heat, the Timberwolves, and the Magic, all of whom drove ticket and merchandise sales in their respective markets. But David Stern had grander ambitions. Canada emerged as the NBA's new frontier. But with strict rules imposed by NBA owners, furious that the Orlando Magic had become a contender so early on. Newcomer Orlando received the first overall pick in both the 1992 and 1993 NBA drafts, taking Shaq and Penny Hardaway by way of Chris Webber, turning Orlando into a 50-win team. The new rules imposed by the owners for the expansion draft meant the Canadian franchises were ineligible for a top 5 pick in 1995, ineligible for the number 1 overall pick in 96, 97, and 98, as well as being limited to 66% of the salary cap, essentially meaning they could spend 2/3 of what every other team could spend on free agents. Brutal. And so, as Michael Jordan delivered his stunning retirement announcement in Chicago, the NBA finalized plans to add not 1, but 2 Canadian teams. But just across the border, the Toronto Blue Jays, the reigning World Series champions, were about to make the NBA's job just a little bit harder.
The 3-2 pitch. In the air, left center field. Incaviglia makes the running catch.
It's 2 weeks after Michael Jordan's retirement press conference, and the Toronto Blue Jays are locked in a thrilling tilt against the Philadelphia Phillies. Bottom of the 9th, Game 7 of the World Series. The Phillies leading 6-5. Joe Carter walks across the rock-solid Skydome AstroTurf and into the batter's box.
He's 0 for 3 tonight, 0 for 4 lifetime against Williams. Joe drove in a run in the first with a sacrifice fly tonight.
The Blue Jays were a force in baseball. Having won the World Series last year, they were 1 hit away from repeating as world champions, at home in their state-of-the-art new Skydome arena. But Canada was still a country obsessed with hockey. The Blue Jays' NHL counterpart, the Toronto Maple Leafs, were the heartbeat of Toronto sports culture. As one of the original 6 NHL teams, their history, rivalries, and fan base defined the city's sports identity for decades. And in the early 90s, they were competitive, going to the playoffs every year from 1991 to 1995. Leafs fans desperate to return to the top of the Hockey Mountain by winning a Stanley Cup for the first time since 1967. Spoiler, they didn't. And they still haven't. Yes, the Toronto Huskies existed in the Basketball Association of America, a precursor to the modern NBA, but they only lasted a year. The point is, Toronto is a hockey town, with a soon-to-be double World Series champion following closely behind, as Joe Carter lifts Mitch Williams' inside fastball high into the cavernous, state-of-the-art Skydome retractable roof, and way over the left field fence for a dramatic walk-off win.
Touch 'em all, Joe! You'll never hit a bigger home run in your life!
12 days later, the NBA would approve a suggestion by the expansion committee that a team should be awarded to Toronto. Basketball was finally heading north of the border. The Toronto expansion group leader, John Bitov Jr., knew the challenges of breaking into the icy Toronto sports market. So he wanted to create a distinct brand, no blue, and completely different from what was being offered by Canada's traditional hockey teams. Tom O'Grady, the NBA's first creative director, collaborated with the expansion team to nail down a visual identity. He saw what McDonald's had with the Happy Meal. Kids would walk in for a crappy hamburger and apple juice, and their eyes would light up because of the Happy Meal box. John wanted the Happy Meal box of uniforms. He wanted kids to be attached to it. And so, looking for a striking visual identity and a way to connect to young fans, John Bitov Jr. took the night off. But went to the movies. And while he's getting his popcorn, let me tell you about today's video sponsor, HOMAGE. Run by my friend Ryan, they specialise in vintage-inspired, officially licensed tees, sweats and jackets for your favourite team, all the way from kid sizes to XXL. I was lucky enough to visit the facility in Ohio, and there was vintage sportswear everywhere. They're talking about licensed Grateful Dead tees, Looney Tunes, Ninja Turtles, NFL Blitz, NBA Jam crossovers, all with your favourite team. And their official starter jacket collaboration is mind-blowing. High-quality satin, stitching and lining. They're made to last, which is good for you, your wallet, and the planet. So look good, wreck your team, and save 20% with the code SidelineArchive20. That's homage.com.
Get one free when you buy a large drink or dino-size extra value meal. But hurry before they're extinct.
In 1993, Jurassic Park exploded onto the scene, smashing box office records with a $50 million opening weekend. The film's groundbreaking special effects and gripping tale of cloned dinosaurs running amok left an indelible mark on pop culture. For John Bitov Jr., the dinosaur craze was a perfect inspiration for a bold, tradition-defying identity for Toronto's new NBA franchise, the Raptors. Originally, Bitov favoured T-Rex as the team name, but it lacked the agility of Raptors. Toronto T-Rex, Toronto Raptors, you know what I mean? And so with the name secured, the focus turned to the jersey. a design that needed to break away from the staid tradition of teams like the Maple Leafs or the Canadiens and announce the Raptors' arrival with a fresh, eye-catching flair. So at this point in jersey history, both the NBA and NHL are dominated by traditionalism. Legacy franchises like the Celtics, the Bulls, the Lakers played in bold block colours, most of whom had a single colour jersey with a simple city word mark above the player numbers. There were exceptions like the Charlotte Hornets pinstripes introduced in 1988 and the Denver Nuggets bold rainbow cityscape, but they're kind of rare. Technological limitations in textile manufacturing made it difficult to revolutionise the NBA jersey. Before 1990, intricate designs like the Nuggets rainbow required layering different fabrics, which was cumbersome, itchy, and impractical for the players. And that all changed with the advent of dye sublimation, a process that allowed complex, seamless graphics to be printed directly onto the fabric. Champion, the NBA's uniform supplier, embraced dye sublimation and debuted it with the New Jersey Nets gradient Day at the Beach type jersey for the 1990-91 season. Though the rebrand flopped on the court and only lasted a season, it paved the way for a wave of exciting designs. The 76ers, the Trailblazers, and the Denver Nuggets jerseys all redesigned with sublimated patterns, followed by the Suns rebrand in 1992 and the Cavs in 1994. These innovations coincided with a merchandising boom. The Charlotte Hornets' teal and purple colour scheme had already proven that bold, fashion-forward designs could drive massive sales. And so, inspired by their success, more teams embraced experimental looks, setting the stage for our Toronto Raptors' dramatic debut. So, if you want a large red cartoon dinosaur dribbling a basketball on your jersey, for example, you could. And they did. A red cartoon dinosaur dribbling a basketball dominated the front, surrounded by jagged pinstripes evocative of claw marks. Purple, a colour unique among Canadian teams, served as the primary base, while red honoured Canada's national heritage. The Raptor was originally supposed to be lime green, but they thought better of that. The Raptors weren't alone in redefining NBA fashion that season. Teams like the Hawks, the Bucks, the Sonics, the Rockets and Pistons joined in the fun with bold rebrands, creating what many people think is the golden era of jersey design. So when the Toronto Raptors took the court for their inaugural game at the Skydome in 1995, it was a visual feast. Coinciding with the peak of creativity in sideline wear, you can see the Raptors lining up in their champion warm-up jackets, with jagged dinosaur tooth-like trim and a huge TR logo back hit with a raptor taking a bite out of the tee. The players flanked by court staff in Logo Athletics splash hats and polos, with the Raptors dinosaur hatching out of a literal egg at half court before the game, and seats lining the court with the classic "I love this game" NBA graphic. This was the moment the NBA peaked. In my opinion, this was it. Pure 100% proof 1995 aesthetic. Mainline it directly to my veins. Charles Oakley of the Knicks had a different opinion. Later in the season, he was heard heckling Raptors players at MSG, yelling, "They're the blankinest blanking things I've ever blanking seen." Remember Oakley, we might run into him later. So Toronto's basketball dreams have finally hatched, and love them or hate them, the Raptors' dino jerseys and merchandise were heating up. But on their home court, the temperature was starting to drop. Let's talk about the Skydome. Located at the foot of the CN Tower in Toronto and home of Joe Carter and his Blue Jays. It was a venue designed for 300-foot home runs, not three-point bombs, so it was a strange choice to house a basketball team, but how bad could it be? On the plus side, it was versatile, hosting the 1995 draft, where the Raptors would select cornerstone Dalen Stoudamire, a sub-6-foot shoot-first point guard nicknamed Mighty Mouse. Stoudamire's initial reaction to the team's logo, which he compared to Barney the dinosaur, didn't exactly inspire confidence. But on TV, the setup looked okay. The hardwood was laid along what would usually be the right field foul line, with makeshift stands erected on the outfield to enclose the court. With a capacity of 50,000, the Skydome dwarfed typical NBA arenas. Fans seated up in the 500s were so far from the court they needed binoculars to follow the action. And some sightlines were completely blocked, forcing fans to rely on the Jumbotron, which isn't exactly jumbo. And the players faced their own challenges. The unusual backdrop made shooting more difficult, and the vast space often felt cold, because despite the closed roof, it was still in Canada. To many, it felt like watching basketball in a cavernous, freezing warehouse. But as challenging as the Skydome was, it laid the foundation for the fan base you have today. In the very beginning, the venue's insane capacity allowed for flexibility. Affordable $5 tickets brought in fans who might not otherwise be interested in Canadian basketball. And the team even put vending machines in shoppers' drugstores where you could buy tickets for $8 a pop. Despite the awkward setup, the Raptors finished in the top 10 for attendance during their first 2 seasons, a testament to Toronto's hunger for basketball. And the fans were rewarded on March 23, 1996, as the upstart Raptors in their Icebox Arena beat Michael Jordan and his legendary 72-10 Chicago Bulls by a single point.
Before, and I'll say it again, you want to stop Michael Jordan, don't let him get on the bus.
There he is, again, nothing but net.
Jordan in the game, and wow.
It's about that time, Ron.
Looking to get open. Stoudamire. Yes! Up to the game. Jordan hanging out again. Watch out for him. There it is again. He does it again. Kerr, 5 seconds. Pippen will have to let it go. 3. Steve Kerr. No. Jordan. Yes. But no. After the buzzer, and the Toronto Raptors have pulled it out.
Rookie point guard Damon Stoudamire shone, scoring 30 points and 11 assists, propelling him to NBA Rookie of the Year honors in '96. But this was the lone bright spot in the Raptors' early years. Like most expansion franchises, they struggled. Despite Hall of Fame talent arriving in the form of Chauncey Billups in 1998, the atmosphere of impermanence around the Raptors held them back from developing a talented roster. I mean, their practice court was rented from a nearby college and their home arena was a freezing baseball stadium. Tracy McGrady was yet to develop into the star he'd become, and the Raptors traded both an unhappy Damon Stoudamire and Chauncey Billups, who never really settled before the start of the season. These exits highlighted the Raptors' mismanagement and painted Toronto as a mediocre expansion team, but with a cool logo. Walking into the 1998 NBA draft, the Raptors were frankly irrelevant, but that all changed on draft night when Toronto orchestrated a trade that would change the franchise forever.
Select Antoine Jameson from the University of North Carolina.
The Raptors swapped Antoine Jameson, their draft pick, for his friend and teammate, Vince Carter, a high-flying, charismatic shooting guard from North Carolina who seemed destined to be the NBA's next superstar. From day one, Vince was electric.
Vince Carter with his first basket in the NBA. You see the great leaping ability as he should be.
He squared off against Paul Pierce in his debut, leading the Raptors to a win over the Celtics. His jaw-dropping dunks and clutch performances quickly earned him the title of half man, half amazing.
Oh, my goodness.
Carter's gravity-defying exploits were all over ESPN, putting Toronto on the map and igniting a basketball buzz in the Six for the very first time.
Carter elevates and throws it down.
Which brings us back to Air Canada Centre on opening night, matching up against their expansion brothers, the Vancouver Grizzlies. Finally free from the makeshift confines of the Toronto Skydome, the Raptors had their own arena and their very own superstar. The Grizzlies never really recovered from the draft sanctions imposed on them from the very start. They fielded perennially terrible teams, and the Raptors, in finding Vince, narrowly avoided the same fate. Carter, ably assisted by Tracy McGrady and new center Charles Oakley, yes, he finally got to wear a blank in Dino jersey, dragged the Raptors onto NBA and NBC highlight shows and into the national conversation, cementing the Raptors in Toronto's sports culture. Vince had saved the Dino jersey, just in time. Hung up in the rafters prior to their first game at Air Canada Centre and retired by the Raptors after Carter's rookie season, Toronto killed the Dino jersey in 1999, joining the design trend of modern digital graphics in the run-up to the millennium. The sublimation graphic era in the NBA was over, and the dinosaur had met its meteor. Flattened like a fossil for all time into the center of the Raptors' court, no longer featured on the team's uniforms.
And the Raptors have won and forced a deciding fifth game at Madison Square Garden in New York Friday night. And Vince Carter delivering big time with a career and playoff high 32 points.
In Carter's first full season in the new jersey design, the Raptors made their playoff debut. While they were swept in the first round, the seeds of hope had been planted. Vince Carter's star only continued to rise. At the 2000 Sydney Olympics, he delivered what many consider the greatest dunk in basketball history leaping over the 7'2" Frederick Weiss. And months later, he elevated the NBA dunk contest to an art form. You probably heard about it. Delivering a performance that remains untouchable to this day, with 5 dunks, including 360 windmill, a between-the-legs bounce dunk, and the iconic honey dip, all in the New Jersey. Carter wasn't just the face of the Raptors. He grew into the face of Canadian basketball. His highlight reel plays and undeniable charisma turned the Raptors from an awkward expansion team into a franchise with swagger. Toronto finally had an identity. Look, Vince's tenure in Toronto wasn't without its bumps, and the team never really capitalized on the chemistry between Carter and McGrady for reasons I'll let someone else go into. But right now, as Vince slams one down on Bryant Reeves' head before all the ego and the arguing and the trades, there was hope in Toronto. He didn't just dunk, he made the Raptors into must-see TV. For a team that began its journey in the chilly confines of the Skydome, Carter's arrival was the spark that turned him into a high-flying phenomenon. And for Raptors fans, that's where the story truly begins.
Now the Warriors just inbound, and that's it. There's a new NBA champion, and it's a team from Toronto, Canada.
Today, the Raptors are a championship-winning team with a devoted fan base and global footprint. But those roots, stretching back to cartoonish dinosaurs, freezing baseball stadiums, and the thrilling arrival of Air Canada himself, remain an indelible part of the story. John Bitov Jr. succeeded where the Vancouver Grizzlies failed, overcoming impossible draft sanctions and weaving the Raptors into the fabric of Canadian and American sports. When the Grizzlies relocated in 2001, the Raptors stood alone as Canada's sole NBA representative. A 2008 rebrand finally got rid of the purple, uniting the nation under bold Canadian red, adding "We the North" in 2013, cementing the team's place in both the national and global basketball culture. The legacy from the original Dino era is celebrated in the latest City Edition jersey, showcasing a Raptor taking flight in Vince's iconic jam from the 2000 All-Star Dunk Contest. What's funny is most people imagine Carter wearing the Dino jersey for that dunk, but he didn't. Just like the Raptor on the City Edition jersey, he wore the 1999 jersey, because when you think Vince Carter, you don't think Toronto spell out, you think Dino. In the end, the Dino found its identity, not in the struggles of expansion, but in the high-flying, electrifying exploits of Vince Carter and the late 90s Toronto Raptors. And as Kenny the Jet Smith so perfectly put it,
It's over! It's over, ladies and gentlemen!
hey, thanks for tapping in. If you enjoyed this video, check out whichever one YouTube's recommended to you right here. Subscribe to catch our latest videos every 2 weeks, or come join our community on Instagram, where about 4,000 of us chat about sports aesthetics. But until next time, peace.